And we are about to be underway. Ake will start with a Windswept Heath for round number 5. The boss will sacrifice a Misty Rainforest. Looks like the boss is using those Ravaging Blaze sleeves from Grand Prix London, too. Look at him go.
Fresh off the plane.
Yep. Went 12-3 at the Grand Prix. Had a fantastic weekend. And now he's got himself a Noble Hierarch to start off here. Ake will sacrifice that Windswept Heath. He'll get a Temple Guard. He'll enter the battlefield tapped. Gonna fix that mana up. We'll see what he has the second turn of the game. He's got copies of Scavenging Ooze, 2 of those, 2 Voice of Resurgence, 3 Kusali Pride Mages, 3 Tarmogoyfs as well. A lot of stuff to do. Ake will draw. Windswept Heath, sacrifice that. Go down to 18, potentially 16 here. If you're playing against Tom, too, you've probably got a good idea of what he's playing, so your life total is really a free roll.
Yeah, you can be very aggressive getting your dual lands here, and Ake's going to prioritize fixing his mana here. Now with the Stomping Ground, and his mana should be good to go.
That's a Voice of Resurgence. That's a passing of the turn. The boss will draw. He'll play a Windswept Heath. This is a Blighted Agent. Pass that turn back. This turn could be, excuse me, this game could be over very quickly.
Yep. And Tom does not care all that much about triggering the Voice of Resurgence here. He's still got a cushion to play with. So if he has to protect this with things like Apostle's Blessing, even on Ake's own turn, doesn't really matter to him.
There's a Lightning Bolt. Tom going to sacrifice a fetch land. See what land he wants to search up with that Windswept Heath.
Now, if Ake has 2 removal spells here, then it's really, really good.
Yep.
Because he can kill the Blighted Agent and get a bunch of tokens for his trouble.
Might be time for Apostle's Blessing. We'll see. Looks like it is. He'll have to take 2 to cast it. Ake does have a second removal spell to be a Path to Exile. That'll give Tom a land. But the question now is does he have another Infect threat? Get a basic Forest Will the boss. Ake off to a pretty good start, though.
Although he may be down a Voice trigger.
You are correct. There's a Spellskite. There's another Blighted Agent. Okay. Spellskite does a beautiful job of blocking Voice Resurgence, too.
Yeah, this is a disheartening game here for Ake because his draw put together as much as you could really ask for. I mean, he's missing land drops, but he had a threat backed up by 2 pieces of removal, and that might not be enough.
The Voice of Resurgence will come down. All you can do is pass the turn back. Boss will sacrifice a land. He'll get himself a Dryad Arbor here. Mana's online. He's got his Infect threat. He's got plenty of protection for it.
Yeah.
Now it's all about pump spells.
I believe he has become immense.
I think this game's over. This game's over.
Easy.
Yeah. That looked like Legacy, in fact, that game. Tom Ross going to win game number 1 here over Albert Ake. In fact, very quickly up a game over Naya Company. Ake did have some ways to interact there with Lightning Bolt and Path to Exile, but simply not enough.
Yeah, and it really goes to show you the power level of this Infect deck. That was a very good draw for Ake in the matchup, and it wasn't enough.
Well, to the sideboards we go. We will start with Ake and his 2 Stony Silences, a Kataki War's Wage, 2 Choke, 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and a Scavenging Ooze. 4 copies of Feed the Clans. He does not want to lose to Burn, along with his Sworn Canist, a Magus of the Moon, and a Blood Moon.
Not a lot of exciting action here. I think the Magus and Blood Moon style effects are okay for the matchup and shutting down the Nexus. I think the 2 copies of Thalia can come in here. Tom's trying to set up some terms where he casts a bunch of cheese spells all at once, so Thalia is pretty good, but not a lot of awesome stuff here.
What do we see for the boss?
A Necropede, 3 copies of Nature's Claim, 3 copies of Twisted Image, a Relic of Progenitus, a Spellskite, a Piracy Charm, a Dismember, a Viridian Corruptor, 2 copies of Dispel, and a Carrion Call. I like the 2 copies of Dispel in this matchup. I think the 3 copies of Twisted Image are pretty reasonable here, as Albert's probably got Noble Hierarchs in his deck and might be bringing in Spellskites as well, but pretty light sideboarding. The Necropede could come on in here as Albert's trying to block, has a lot of small creatures, but not a lot for Tom to do in this matchup.
These players will sideboard and shuffle up. Albert will be on the play for game number 2. So in the meantime, we'll take a look at the Season 4 schedule here of the Open Series. Season 3, well, this is the last event on its own before we do our Invitational next weekend. But after that Invitational in New Jersey, we're going to Cincy.
Yep, Cincinnati for Modern, and then Worcester September 12th and 13th, we head to Milwaukee for Standard Open Series, back to Indianapolis August 3rd and 4th for Standard Open. After that, we go to Atlanta. We take a week off, and then a Legacy Open Series event in St. Louis, Modern in Dallas, a Standard Open back in Philadelphia. After that, we have a Steel Grand Prix in Atlanta, a Standard Open Series in KC, a Legacy Open in New Jersey, a Standard Open Series in Denver, which we haven't been to in several years, December 5th and 6th. The Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas, Nevada, Standard and Modern as the invitational formats with a two-day $20,000 Standard Open Series event, December 11th through 13th. And then the Players' Championship, Roanoke, Virginia, December 19th and 20th to close the year.
For all the main events for our Season 4 Open Series events, you'll get Hoppin' Rabbit Master. It is our brand new playmat. Just giving the bunny beatdowns, as it were. Yeah. And this is the first time I think you've seen this one, but yeah, this is a play on Goblin Rabble Master. Obviously, the Hoppin' Rabbit Master giving beatdowns. You sign up for the main event for any Open Series until December 5th. It is free, and that's the best part.
Yep, all the way up to the Open Series event in Denver.
Yep.
After that, Las Vegas, and then the Players' Championship. But those bunnies look like they do have to attack. Yeah. So it's a good interpretation to Goblin Rabble Master in bunny form.
We do get ready here for game number 2 with Tom Ross. We learn more about the boss, who was a back-to-back invitational champion last year. Actually just had a great tournament in London, going 12-3 with Bant Heroic. 31 years old, living in Roanoke, Virginia, providing content for Star City Games now. So we mentioned 3 invitational top 8s with 2 wins last year. 4 Open Series top 8s with a win. A Pro Tour top 8 at Pro Tour Honolulu 2009. That was won by Brian Kibler, if memory serves. Actually, no, I'm incorrect. Kibler won the next one. Excuse me. He won Pro Tour Dark Ascension in the early 2010s. And then, of course, 4 Grand Prix top 8s for the boss. Yusuf Parkour can still do backflips. I've seen him do one before when I was in Roanoke a couple weeks ago. And I've also got the opportunity to see him play Mortal Kombat 10 as well. Him and Todd Anderson, they tussle.
Yeah, I mentioned this before, but if anything ends up breaking up the Roanoke crew of Magic players, it's going to be Mortal Kombat or some other video game.
Yes. Without question. Those guys love to battle in video games. Ake started things off with a Noble Hierarch off of basic force. You see the Kusali Pride Mage. Let's make it 2 of those, along with a Knight of the Reliquary, a Lightning Bolt, and a Mountain in hand. So perfectly fine hand.
This is another hand from Ake that looks, this is about as good as he can really ask for. And Tom's good draws blow right through this.
Yeah. He would never mulligan this hand.
Yeah.
Breeding Pool is where the boss is going to begin. And now, ooh. It's not Piracy Charm. It's actually much better. It's Twisted Image.
Yep. And like I said, I think Tom brought these in because Albert's the type of deck that could have Spellskite, which is a tough card for Tom to play against. And the worst case scenario, you can fire off on a mana creature. The exact same probe reveals no copies of Spellskite and a lot of 3-drops to boot. So this is pretty much perfect.
Heck of a start there for Tom. Now he knows that Ake has a copy of Lightning Bolt in hand, so he's got to work his way around that, but he also just took away the white mana. So a couple copies of Noble Hierarch. Pass a turn back. Ake will draw. Got a stomping ground there. I don't think he has white mana. I think his draw was a Kessig Wolf Run. Yep. It's not great. Spellskite the draw here for Tom.
Spellskite very powerful here for Tom. As it allows him to play this turn, he can follow up with an Infector. A can't Lightning Bolt.
That's exactly what he's done. Spellskite first, Glistener Elf second. Ake will untap and draw. Picked up a copy of Sacred Foundry. That'll be helpful. There's the white mana he was missing. He'll take 2. Down to 18 he goes. Again, life total doesn't really matter all that much. It's the infect total that matters.
And this sets him up for a sequence here where he can play the Pride Mage, get rid of the Spellskite, and try to bolt down the Glistener Elf.
Yep. Looks like he'll pass the turn back for now. Ross might sacrifice that Misty Rainforest on the end step. He is deciding. Does have a copy of Mines of Vastwood in hand.
And this is where a lot of the power of the Infect deck comes from, is even if you do have your answers, they're likely to be a lot less mana efficient than what the Infect player is doing. Kusali Pride Mage is fine in the matchup, but it's not very efficient at trying to fight these kind of fights.
Pride Mage is going to try to go after the Spellskite, but Vines of Vastwood's going to counter that.
And that's 3 mana from Ake versus 1 mana from Tom.
Yeah.
And this deck is so good at generating those kind of exchanges.
Again, it's not quite legacy, in fact, but it's still pretty gosh darn good.
You're also not playing against Umezawa's Jitte.
Yeah.
So that's a nice benefit for this deck.
That's very true. Glistenerel's coming in with 2 Exalted triggers. So 8's going to have 3 Infect. 7 to go for the boss. There's a Wooded Foot. Excuse me, there's a Verdant Catacombs. Pass the turn back. 8 picked up a copy of Lightning Bolt. Don't care too much about those, though. Looks like maybe time for a Pride Mage. Pass the turn back. Ross will sacrifice his Verdant Catacombs. See what land he wants to dig up here. We saw him get Dried Arbor a little bit earlier in the match. He'll get a Breeding Pool this time. The boss will untap. He'll take a draw here. Picked up another copy of Twisted Image. See how he wants to move forward on this turn. Hasn't made a quick move in his chair.
Yep.
We've seen that before. Kind of surveying the situation. Now here comes Glistener Elf. It's got 2 Exalted triggers. There's a block. Sacrifice, go after the Spellskite. See if the boss wants to protect or not. Does have another copy of Vines in hand, it appears. We saw him protect it the first time this happened. Looks like he'll do it again. This is just so hard for Ike to overcome.
And I like this play a lot from Tom because, you know, the worst case, you know that Ike has a Lightning Bolt in hand. So you know at the worst, the Spellskite is currently checking a Lightning Bolt, and it might be checking much more than just a Lightning Bolt. There could be other removal spells in hand, which is exactly the spot that Ike's in. So by protecting the Spellskite, he's actually shutting off numerous removal spells out of Ike's hand.
Ross draws a card. Twisted Image and a Mystery card in hand right now. In we go. Looks like we got to collect a company on the way before blockers. So, Ake will take a look at the top 6. Hopefully he can find 2 creatures to put on the battlefield.
I mean, this is potentially a workaround here for Ake, is just put enough power in play that he can trade with the Glistener Elf.
Mm-hmm.
From there, Tom has no, he has no secondary Infect creature.
He hasn't found an Inkmoth Nexus, haven't seen a Blight Agent this game.
But right now, Ake can't stabilize this game through removal. It's got to be via blockers.
There's at least another Reliquary over there. So it looks like he'll take that and a Wild Nacatl. Nacatl currently a 3/3. It actually doesn't appear as though there are any lands in Ake's graveyard at this point for neither Reliquary. So it looks to just be a 2/2. Rather small in the mid-game. Nacatl's going to jump in front. Daring Ross to have something. It doesn't appear that he does.
And Tom's hand does not appear to be worth very much. This is really the window that Ake needed, was just to get this Infect creature off the table.
Now, keep in mind, that Glistener Elf is a 3/3 because of 2 Exalted triggers, so it'll trade with the Nacatl.
Yeah, but that's fine. Ake does not care. All he's got to do is keep the board clean of any Infect creatures, and the game becomes very easy for him to manage.
And Ross's hand actually was a copy of Groundswell, so if there was no blocker there, he could have just went for the W.
Mm-hmm.
Could trigger Landfall with the Misty Rainforest that's on the battlefield, plus those 2 Exalted triggers, however. Didn't have it. Now another Reliquary coming in. Looks like Ross is just going to take the 2. He's down to 12. The follow-up now is another Knight of the Reliquary. Stomping Grounds on the battlefield tap, and Ake is left with 2 cards in hand, 2 Lightning Bolts. The premier removal spell of this format. Now, Ross does have a copy of Twisted Image in hand. I think he might be considering firing that off now.
The argument for saving it is that it is valuable. There could be a spot where Albert decides to go for the kill with Keswick Wolf Run, and then Twisted Image becomes very good in that spot. I think that if Albert didn't have the Keswick Wolf Run in play, Tom would have probably cycled the Twisted Image. But there's still hope that it could do a lot down the line.
Uh-oh. We're going regular?
A little column A, column B.
Yeah.
A little this and that.
Here comes Noble Hierarch. It's a 2-3. Now the Reliquary right now is a 2-2, so...
Little, offense, defense.
I like this.
Both sides of the ball.
Yeah. I've seen him get the job done with regular damage before.
Yeah. Again, it's plan B.
Yeah.
Not trying to have the game go down that road.
It's the definition of plan B. Yep, there goes that.
Whoa.
Unbelievable.
Whoa.
There's Glistener Elf. I am very surprised to see that happen.
I mean, I guess it's not inconceivable Tom could kill you from there. But
It's so unlikely.
I don't know how, I'm not sure how you're supposed to manage this game if you're chump blocking in spots like that.
From 18?
Yeah,
There's no berserks running around.
I mean, what's the long-term plan? If that's a spot where you're going to block, how do you manage the board for the rest of the game?
Yeah, because that means if you're blocking then, you're blocking always, right?
Right, yeah.
That's basically what you're saying. There's Nakadal.
That's why you make the attack. 2 points is free, and some percentage of the time, your opponent's going to chump there. They're just down a Night of the Reliquary. I don't think Tom was expecting that necessarily, but I'm sure he'll take it.
I wouldn't be unhappy. Windswept Heath with the draw here for Ross. Still got that Groundswell and a Twisted Image in hand. They're really valuing that Twisted Image highly. Trying to figure out the best way to use that blue card.
I think it's mostly just a function of a Wolf Run.
Yeah. Remember, you can redirect Keswick Wolf Run, if necessary, over to Spellskite. That used to be a way for people to kill Phantasmal Images. Activate Wolf Run for 0 to kill an image. That's a Temple Garden. Now the work we're going to get to work here a little bit.
I was about to say, that seems like a spot where I would want to go get Horizon Canopy, but I think Ake has no copies in his list.
It does not appear as though he is playing. Well, oftentimes we find one of those.
Right, there's nothing
around.
really. There's some spots like this where there's nothing really going on, and you're not quite ready to attack yet. And so Horizon Canopy can be good in those spots.
And the one of kind of the value lands to search up here. Ake has a Ghost Quarter. It's got a Keswick Wolf Run, and that's really it. Sometimes you find Horizon Canopy, sometimes you find Tectonic Edge. Yeah, you can go a little deep. There's a basic forest. Now the Reliquary is starting to grow into a relevant size.
Now, if Ake goes for just a large Wolf Run pump with his turn, then you may see it. Looks like Albert's just passing. I suppose very little incentive to do that currently with the Wolf Run in play.
Yeah. Ross will sacrifice the Misty Rainforest. Gonna get a land out of his deck. It'll be the Dryad Arbor.
But Ake is sitting on these 2 lightning bolts, and he does have the opportunity, if Tom doesn't do anything too impressive on his own turn, to kill the Spellskite, and then the Wolf Run becomes very threatening.
I think the draw was a copy of Become Immense. Okay. But no way for Ross to really push through damage just yet. Again, I'm still very curious to see when he's going to use his Twisted Image, if he ever does. Does he feel as though he can continue to kind of play a slow game like this?
I don't think that he I don't think he can afford to play a slow game like this. If I'm in Tom's seat, I just don't think there's a lock I keep Spellskite and play for the whole game. And you really have to be assuming that's the case to play a really slow-paced game.
Because the Spellskite's not there, it's actually a pretty easy game for Ake.
Yes. And that's part of the reason I think he's sitting on the Twisted Image, is because he wants to have that, you know, in case of emergency, break glass kind of card. So if the Spellskite goes away and Albert goes for the kill, he can absorb the entire turn and try to kill him on the way back.
Here comes Glistener Elf, it looks like. So 2 triggers, all right. Those 2 cards are just going to trade past the turn back. So Tom is okay with getting that Wild Nikado off the table. We might just have a Lightning Bolt Fury. Yeah, all right. So going to go after Spellskite. This one too. Yeah, you can just use a Groundswell to save that because he did play a land for the turn. So +4/+4, not past the turn back. Ake will draw. I think maybe he wanted to get that off the table so he could do a big Wolf Run activation here. Mm-hmm. Here come the beatdowns. Looks like Dryad Arbor is going to block.
Tom also might be setting up some sort of bizarre Become Immense Spellskite Twisted Image kill here. Like with the Pump Spell and Exalted triggers, he can then flip the Spellskite.
Yeah, that's true.
Something weird's happening. We're going to see how this shakes out, but Tom is on some very strange plan right now, I'm positive.
You saw him chump block pretty quickly there at the Dryad Arbor. Yep. The plot thickens as Spellskite comes into the red zone. 2 Exalted triggers. Come and get it, Thalia.
Because this turns it into a 2/6. So Twisted Image is pretty awesome in this spot if you're trying to deal damage.
Yeah. I think that.
Albert's like, well, I kind of have to block and I kind of can't block, so.
He's pumping it up. He's pumping it up twice, but that doesn't actually matter. And he can also just redirect he can redirect the trigger.
Yep.
So. But by Wolf Running for 2 there, it doesn't get the job done because of the Exalted triggers.
Exactly.
So.
But Tom is up to something with the Spellskite and Twisted Image.
Yep. Looks like Tom is blocking again. Okay, Apostle's Blessing, keep my creature alive.
That's an Exalted trigger. And it's also just a blocker down the road.
Yep. Draw a card. Get ya. 2 Exalted triggers. Yep, there's Twisted Image. So that's going to be a 6-ball at the very least. Drew another copy of Spellskite. Curious if he wants to use the Become Immense now or later. Looks like he wants to wait. And now here's Spellskite. Pass. Ake will draw. I think he's got he's got 2 lands in his hand. Maybe he's got a spell. Let's see. Yep. He's got Tarmogoyf. That's pretty big.
Yep.
We'll get our Tarmogoyf die out there to see exactly how big it is, but it's pretty big. There's a Wooded Foothills, too.
It's got to be minimum 4 or 5 at this point, I would guess. I guess there may not be a sorcery.
Yeah, there may not be a sorcery,
it could just be land, creature, instant.
Yeah, because it's not like this deck has Ponder or anything.
Yeah,
that card's gone,
it's just a 3/4.
It's a little baby. Ross will draw. Inkmoth Nexus. Hey!
The problem with the Nexus here is Ake is representing a Ghost Quarter.
Yep.
You have to assume that there's one in this deck.
That or a Tech Edge. Either one works.
Yeah.
Nexus is not the green light that it normally is in a situation like this. Looks like 8's going to activate the Nike. Sacrifice. Stomping Ground. Search up Ghost Quarter.
Also, what's noteworthy here, Tom probably is already guessing this, by the way that Albert is sacrificing his lands here, he definitely has Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon. He's been keeping forests and getting rid of dual lands.
That's very true. Another Goyf. Knight's going to maybe come in here. That looks like it is. Gonna check to see how many lands are down there. Pretty big Knight. Looks like it's time to chump block. There goes another reliquary. Pass the turn back. The boss will draw. Looks like a basic forest was added to the hand.
I think he might have been sitting on that. I think he may have picked up another copy of Nexus.
I think you're right. Hiya. Well, Ake's not making a move, which he shouldn't.
No.
There's another Nexus. Ake will draw. And we go. Looks like Noble Hierarch's going to block again.
Yeah, at this point, Tom doesn't really need Exalted triggers because he has a second Nexus in play, so he can attack with both of them. And he's more playing towards something like Vines, something to protect his Nexus than anything else.
I think he just drew Necropede. Didn't get a great look at it. Then fire both of these, tackle both. Okay, up to 7. Yeah, it is Necropede. That's annoying.
And you know, Tom is still setting this up where he can hold down the ground for just long enough where, you know, Albert's going to have to pull the trigger on the Ghost Quarter, and then whatever pump spells Tom has left over can get the game done.
Ah, Albert going to take a look at old Necropede.
And in fact, at this point, Tom's in a spot where if he just draws another pump spell,
That's it.
he can spread the pump spell, you know, force lethal on one. That requires, that gets the Ghost Quarter activation out of Albert, and then a pump spell on the other one finishes the game off.
I like this attack. A lot, actually. You got to get this stuff out of the way so that you can go lethal next turn. Put the infect counter there. He's going to spread the infect counters out a little bit because when Necropede dies, he gets to put an infect counter on something too. So that one would go on the Tarmogoyf, for then Necropede dealt with damage to the Nether Reliquary, so that's why it has one. So Pump Spell, I believe, is lethal here if he's able to draw one. Looks like it was a copy of Apostle's Blessing.
Keep in mind now, there's an artifact in the graveyard. Tarmogoyfs are larger.
Yep. Yeah, those Goyfs, I believe, should be 4/5s now.
And Apostle's Blessing, one of the few poor draws in the deck for Tom here, outside of lands. A pump spell would have probably gotten it done. Another creature to chump block would be valuable.
He's in some trouble now. He's probably got to D-up with, well, I don't even know if he can D-up with all three. I don't know if he's got any out here. I guess one of those Tarmogoyfs is a 3/4 because of the infect counter. So maybe, yeah, I like, okay. Attack with both. Pass the turn back. Maybe he makes a mistake, I guess.
Yeah. Tom can't sit back and block. He loses everything. So.
Yeah. Lightning Bolt was the draw here for Ake.
Try to get Albert to mess up. That's the best thing Tom can do.
Well, it's an attack with everybody, so no mistake to be had there. Albert Ake's going to win game number 2 here against Tom Ross. Naya Company and Infect are all tied up as we get ready here for game number 3. A close one.
And a critical collected company there from Albert, allowing him to block. The way that Tom's board was set up there with Spell Sky, there was not a lot for Albert to do with removal spells, but blockers were very, very valuable, allowed him to hold down the ground for just long enough and get to lethal the turn before he was about to die.
Well, these players will shuffle up for game number 3. Tom Ross will be on the play with his Infect deck. We'll see if he's able to find a Blighted Agent or a faster kill here, or if Ake can stave off elimination. But in the meantime, we will talk about the Next Level Library by Patrick Chapin. 2 great books for all skill levels.
Yeah, Next Level Magic focuses on playing the game, and Next Level Deck Building is about the art and craft of deck building, written by Patrick Chapin, Magic Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion, 2-time Worlds runner-up. As you mentioned, for players of all ability levels, from novice to people who are looking to take the next step in their PTQ and Grand Prix grind, available paperback and ebook right now at StarCityGames.com/nextlevel.
The innovator. I'm thinking a third book soon.
Game designer, musician, writer,
Theorist.
Renaissance man.
Yeah. Nothing he can't do. That would make him a jack of all trades, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I'm going to make that my job title.
But a master of many. A jack of all trades and also a master
of many, yeah.
Usually the expression is master of none, but not the case.
He can sling a spell.
Yep.
No.
Write a word or two.
No world championship for him this year, unfortunately.
Yep.
Well, that should be a fun tournament next week, though.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
The Star City's own Brad Nelson will be competing in that one.
That's correct. Star City's own Ari Lax as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sean McLaren, too. Be a heck of a field there.
So you were speaking more to Star City's own as people who make content for the website, where I was speaking more of, Roanoke and people who are
part of the Roanoke crew.
Right.
Okay.
There's degrees of Star City's own.
Sure.
Brad's at the top of the list, but certainly Ari and Sean McLaren count.
I want to know what the deal is with Brad and his glasses now, though.
He might just need them to read.
Well,
I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's necessarily a trick going on.
It's a big change, and he hasn't even addressed it.
What's there to say?
I demand answers. We're underway. Noble Hierarch off a breeding pool. Ross down to 18. Doesn't look like Ake has very much removal in his hand. He'll start with a basic forest into a Noble Hierarch. We'll see if Twisted Image is here. You see Glistener Elf in hand. That's there.
Blight Agent as well.
Yep.
Necropede, I believe.
Plenty of Infect cards. Ross will sacrifice a Windswept Heath. Get a basic forest. And there is Necropede into Glistener Elf and a passing of the turn.
I like playing the Necropede before the Blight Agent here. Albert likely has to, kill or trade with the Infect creatures as they come. This allows you to get the Noble Hierarch off the table, and you might bleed out a removal spell, clearing the way for Blighted Agent.
Ake will sacrifice his own Windswept Heath. He'll go down to at least 19. We'll see how far he wants to go. Searching up a Sacred Foundry. So he's down to 17.
To sign up for today's Legacy Challenge. If you wanted to play some Legacy today, come on up to the site events registration station.
Let's see what's next year for Ake. That's a Wild Mikado. 3/3.
Combo with Sacred Foundry.
Yes, it is. Noble Hierarch and Lightning Bolt. Rossel draw. Blighted Agent. Necropede, is it your time to shine? In a weird way, Necropede is good on offense and defense right now.
Both sides of the ball.
Yeah. If it wants to get in, I don't think Albert wants to block.
Well, you have 3/3 against 2/2. I mean, it's. I don't think you can really take the shot there.
Yeah, I mean, Nikado's just down now. There's the agent. I think we're going to have another agent on the way, too.
Yeah, Tom has the option to hold up vines here.
Yeah, if he wants to play around a card like Pyroclasm or Anger of the Gods, all that stuff. But I think that, given what he's playing against, I don't think he has to worry about that sort of card.
Yeah, it's just an issue of, are you looking to trade? Do you want Albert to be able to untap and potentially cast 2 removal spells? That's the risk here. Cards like Pyroclasm and Anger of the Gods, it's really hard to put the Noble Hierarch, Kasali Pride Mage deck on having.
Yep.
It's more of an issue of, what if Albert has a Path and a Bolt? Where are you at then? But
to that, I say good beats.
Exactly. And I think Tom's saying the same thing.
2 Pride Mages. Assaulted for 4.
Team Exalted.
Yeah. Also draw. There's a land. Here come the beatdowns. 2 Infect for Ake. It's unblockable after all. And Ghost Quarter in hand for Albert. Don't have a great look at his other card, but it looks like Pride Mage is going to come in the red zone for 6. Ross going to sacrifice this fetch land.
Perhaps this is Dryad Arbor for a chump.
Yep.
You're trying to do this one attacker at a time. I mean, it's a lot of points, but Tom does get to chump block for a while this way.
That's exactly what it'll do. Follow up, Nicodle. Pass the turn back, still with a Ghost Quarter in hand. Ross will draw. Needs some help here.
And he may not need that much help, honestly. I mean, if he has to go for it with Vines, he's got it next turn. If he feels he absolutely has to go for it.
Up to 4 Infect.
I mean, it's 6 plus 4.
Yep.
And then the question is, you know, do you think Albert has a removal spell? Can you afford to play around it anyway?
Here's an attack for 7. Looks like Ross is going to do a little bit of blocking here. And block the biggest one there, and then Nicodle appears. Yep, that's what he's going to do. So he'll take 4, down to 7. And there's another Reliquary.
Good tapping from Albert here, representing Lightning Bolt.
Inkmoth Nexus the draw. However, I feel like in this situation, Tom's hand is forced.
Yeah, I mean, he can't hold off for another turn here. I mean, he would like to not have to go for it, but I don't know what other choice he has.
Yeah, there's Vines with the Vassal with Kicker. It'll be exact as if it's good. And Ake does not have it. Tom Ross going to win this match here over Albert Ake. 2-1. In fact, we'll take care of Naya Company, and the boss moves on to 5-0.
Yeah, you saw that the Naya Company does have some game in the matchup there. The removal spells, the blockers can be very powerful, and you saw that in the second game. But Tom's deck is a lot more efficient in a lot of these exchanges than the Naya Company deck is, and that's where, in fact, traditionally capitalizes, is when it's just much more mana efficient than the opponent.